Thursday, 11th of June 1914, Turnbull's Cottage, Scotland. Welcome back to the 39 Steps, everyone. Hannay's obviously recovering from his illness. When my skin was cool again, I found that the bout had more or less cured my shoulder. But it was a baddish go, and though I was out of bed in 5 days, it took me some time to get my legs again. Turnbull went out each morning, leaving me milk for the day, and locking the door behind him, and came in the evening to sit silent in the chimney corner. Not a soul came near the place, and he never bothered me with a question. He never sought my name. Okay, we've got the Scotsman newspaper. Anything particular we need to look at? Oh yeah, here we go. What's this? Letter in reply to birthday congratulations, King and school children. The Press Association is requested to give publicity to the following correspondence in reference to the birthday congratulations sent by 1,000 school children to the King on Wednesday. Okay. Lovely. Not terribly important. What we go over here? No further trace of aviator. A report circulated yesterday that Mr. Gustav Hamel, who the missing airman had been rescued at sea and landed in South Shields, is unfortunately not correct. Oh dear. And here. From private correspondence, London, Thursday night. The recent outrage perpetrated by the suffragettes have aroused such indignation throughout the country that it is expected an early opportunity will be taken after the resembling of Parliament to raise the whole question of the treatment of the woman found guilty of such criminal acts. Okay. There were the 3 highlighted parts. Nothing really interesting. What's that? Exhibition. Okay. That's fine. What else we got here? There's a letter. So the milk to drink? No. What else do we need to look at? The bed? No. The window, the cooker, the drawers. The chair. One day he produced my belt from a lock-fast drawer.
Here's your belt. There's a terrible heap of siller in it. You better count it to see it's a there.
Thank you, but I'm sure there's no need. By the way, could you tell me, has anyone been inquiring after me?
Aye, there was a man in a motor car. He speered what I'd ta'en my place that day, and I let on I thought him daft. But he keep it on at me, and saying I said he mun be thinking of my good brother for the clich that whiles lean me a hon. He was a worse looking soul, and I couldn't understand the half of his English tongue.
Yeah, he's not the only one. Bless him. I was getting restless those last days, and as soon as I felt myself fit, I decided to be off. As luck would have it, a drover went past that morning taking some cattle to Moffat. He was a man named Hislop, a friend of Turnbull's, and he came into his breakfast with us and offered to take me with him. I made Turnbull accept £5 for my lodging and the hard job I had of it. There was never a more independent being. When I told Turnbull how much I owed him, he grunted something about one good turn deserving another. You would have thought from our leave-taking that we had parted in disgust. Driving cattle is a mortally slow job. and we took the better part of the day to cover a dozen miles. A cheery soul, the drover. Hislop was a cheery soul who chatted all the way over the pass and down the sunny vale of Annan. I talked of Galloway markets and the sheep prices, and Hislop made his up mind I was pack shepherd from those parts, wherever that may be. The journey. I had no mind for the summer, and little for Hislop's conversation, for as the fateful 15th of June drew near, I was overwhelmed with the hopeless difficulties of my enterprise. If I had not such an anxious heart, I would have enjoyed that time. At Muffa, I got some dinner at a humble public house, then walked the 2 miles to the junction on the main line. The night express for the south was not due till near midnight, however. So to fill up the time, I went up on the hillside and fell asleep, for the walk had tired me. I all but slept too long. I had to run to the station to catch the train with 2 minutes to spare. Well, we've got to Crewe, then we change at Crewe and head down to London, it would seem. Oh no, Northampton. Oh, we're coming on the blue line. We're going to... Where are we going to? Westbury, was that? About 6 o'clock in the evening, a weary and travel-stained being with a checkered black and white plaid over his arm descended at the little station of Antilswell. There were several people on the platform, and I thought I had better wait to ask my way till I was clear of the place. I came to the bridge and fell to whistling. A fisherman had come up from the waterside. He leaned his delicate 10-foot split cane rod against the bridge and looked with me at the water.
Clear, isn't it? I back our Kennet any day against the test. Look at that big fellow. 4 pounds if it's an ounce. But the evening rise is over and you can't tempt him.
I don't see him.
Look, there. A yard from the reeds, just above that stickle.
Ah, I've got him now. You might swear he was a black stone.
So. Twisden's the name, isn't it?
No? I mean to say, yes.
I'd forgotten all about my alias.
It's a wise conspirator that knows his own name.
I stood up and looked at him. At the square, cleft jaw and broad, lined brow and the firm folds of cheek, and began to think that here at last was an ally worth having. Suddenly he frowned.
I call it disgraceful. Disgraceful that an able-bodied man like you should dare to beg. You can get a meal from my kitchen, but you'll get no money from me.
Evening, Sir Walter.
That's my house. Wait 5 minutes and then go round to the back door.
And with that, he left me. Oh, charming little house. That's lovely. At the back door, a grave butler was awaiting me.
Come this way, sir.
He led me along a passage and up a back staircase to a pleasant bedroom looking towards the river.
Sir Walter thought as how Mr. Reggie's things would fit you, sir. He keeps some clothes here, for he comes regular on the weekends. There's a bathroom next door, and I've prepared hot bath. Dinner in half an hour, sir.
Sounds
You'll hear the
lovely.
gong.
What a beautiful place. The grave being withdrew, and I sat down in a chintz-covered easy chair and gaped. It was like a pantomime, to come suddenly out of beggardom into this orderly comfort. Obviously Sir Walter believed in me, though why he did I could not guess. I resolved not to puzzle my head, but to take the gifts the gods provided. I shaved and bathed luxuriously, and got into the dress clothes and clean crackling shirt, which fitted me not so badly. By the time I had finished, the looking glass showed a not unperceivable young man. Saturday, 13th of June 1914, Sir Walter's Cottage, Artinswell. Welcome back, everyone. Sir Walter awaited me in the dining room. The sight of him, so respectable and established and secure, the embodiment of law and government and all the conventions, took me aback and made me feel as an interloper. He couldn't know the truth about me, or he wouldn't treat me like this. I simply could not accept his hospitality on false pretenses.
I'm more obliged to you than I can say, but I'm bound to make things clear. I'm an innocent man, but I'm wanted by the police. I've got to tell you this, and I won't be surprised if you kick me out.
That's all right. Don't let that interfere with your appetite. We can talk about these things after dinner.
It made me almost hysterical to be sitting there, waited on by a footman and a sleek butler, and remember that I had been living for 3 weeks like a brigand, and every man's hand against me. Then we went into the study for coffee. I made up my mind that if I ever got rid of this business and had a house of my own, I would create just such a room. Then when the coffee cups were cleared away, and we had got our cigars alight, he bade me to get started with my yarn.
I've obeyed Harry's instructions, and the bribe he offered me was that you would tell me something to wake me up. I'm ready, Mr. Hannay.
I noticed with a start that he had called me by my proper name. A ripping yarn, how it began. I told him my boredom in London, and the night that I had come back to find Scudder gibbering on my doorstep. I told him all Scudder had told me about Karolides and the Foreign Office Conference, and that made him purse his lips and grin. The murder. When I got to the murder, and he drew solemn again, I heard all about the milkman and my time in Galloway, and I deciphering Scudder's notes at the inn. He drew a breath when I whipped the little book out of my pocket. meeting Sir Harry. I described my meeting with Sir Harry and the speeches at the hall, and that he laughed uproariously. The roadman. My day as a roadman excited him a bit. He made me describe the two fellows in the car very closely. It seemed to be raking back in his memory. He grew merry again when he heard of that ass Jopley. The Black Stone. The old man in the moorhouse. The old man in the moorland house solemnized him. Again I had to describe every detail of his appearance.
You may dismiss the police from your mind. You're in no danger from the law of this land.
Great Scott. Have they got the murderer?
No. But for the last fortnight, they've dropped you from the list of possibles.
Why?
Principally because I received a letter from Scudder. I knew something of the man, and he did several jobs for me. He was half crank, half genius, but he was wholly honest. Trouble about him was his partiality for playing a lone hand. That made him pretty well useless in any secret service. A pity, for he had uncommon gifts. I think he was the bravest man in the world, for he was always shivering with fright, and yet nothing would choke him off. I had a letter from him on the 31st of May.
But he had been dead a week by then.
The letter was written and posted on the 23rd. He evidently did not anticipate an immediate decease. His communications usually took a week to reach me, for they were sent undercover to Spain and then to Newcastle. He had a mania, you know, for concealing his tracks.
He got up and crossed the room to a cabinet, bringing back Scudder's letter. Sir Walter, I am in the gravest danger. My worst fears have been realized. My enemies are here in London. They have made themselves known. I cannot write more in case those words be intercepted, but I have found shelter with a good friend who lives near Portland Place. God willing, you will hear from me before the 15th of June. Your servant, Franklin P. Scudder.
I think his object was to clear you if anything happened. But when I got it, I went to Scotland Yard, went over the details of the inquest, and concluded that you were the friend. We made inquiries about you, Mr. Hannay, and found you were respectable. I thought I knew the motives for your disappearance, not only the police, the other one, too. And when I got Harry's scrawl, I guessed at the rest. I've been expecting you any time this past week.
Thank heavens.
You can imagine what a load this took off my mind. I felt a free man
Now,
once more.
Let us have the little notebook.
It took us a good hour to work through it. His face was very grave before he had finished, and he sat silent for a while.
I don't know what to make of it. He's right about one thing. What is going to happen the day after tomorrow? How the devil can it have got known? That is ugly enough in itself. But all this about war and the Black Stone, it reads like some wild melodrama. If only I had more confidence in Scudder's judgment. Trouble about him was that he was too romantic. He had the artistic temperament and wanted a story to be better than God meant it to be. He had a lot of odd biases, too. Jews, for example, made him see red. Jews and the high finance. The Black Stone. Der Schwarze Stein. Yeah, it's like a penny novelette. And all this stuff about Karolides. That is the weak part of the tale, for I happen to know that the virtuous Karolides is likely to outlast us both. There's no state in Europe that wants him gone. Besides, he's just been playing up to Berlin and Vienna and giving my chief some uneasy moments. No. Scudder's gone off the track there. Frankly, Hannay, I don't believe that part of his story. There's some nasty business afoot, and he found out too much and lost his life over it. But I'm ready to take my oath that it's ordinary spy work. A certain great European power makes a hobby of her spy system, and her methods are not too particular. Since she pays by piecework, her blackguards are not likely to stick at a murder or two. They want our naval dispositions for their collection at the Marinamt. But they'll be pigeonholed. Nothing more.
There's a trunk call from London, Sir Walter. It's Mr. Heath, and he wants to speak to you personally.
My host went off to the telephone. He returned in 5 minutes with a whitish face.
I apologize to the shade of Scudder. Karolides was shot dead this evening at a few minutes after 7.
Oh God.